Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Okay, okay, okay. Hello, hello, good evening. Do you hear me? Welcome back. Thank you very much for staying, for coming. We have two more lectures, so I think that we will need a bit of more patience. And now we are arriving to a very special moment with Jaime Hayon. We are super happy to have Jaime back, not only because he's nearly an essential part of this place, but also the reason why I'm here, mostly also. Jaime visited Barcelona some years ago and decided that maybe I was somebody to bring to Fabrica. So maybe he was wrong. Thank you. And also, what to say about Jaime that you don't know? Probably one of the most prolific and outstanding designers of his generation, working internationally in interior design, product design, and of course art, painting, sculptures, and also you can find his work all over the world, whether it's in parks, hotels, restaurants, and art galleries. His career started with a project called Mediterranean Digital Baroque, who brought him prominence, and also another project called Cirque, that was a series of installations in gallery spaces that revolutionized the idea of what design could be. And of course, these exhibitions, these collections were bringing a mix between art, decoration, design, and of course, very, very finely crafted objects, where he was dealing with contemporary design culture and pushing the limits of what design was at that time. Of course, his work has has brought, recently I hear that he's mostly painting in his studio and maybe designing with his left hand. But in 2001, I think that he holds still two studios, no, in Treviso, no,
yeah.
Very close to here in Valencia, and of course in the studio, which also was created with some members of Fabrica, no? Massimo and Matteo, that are here today, and Jaime has been working through design with clients that include BD Barcelona, Casina, Fritz Hanset, Tradition, Magis, Paralkina, Metalarte, Swarovski, and Bizazza, Yadro, Baccarat. I could continue forever. And also he has, as I said before, designed some of the most incredible hotels and restaurants, museums around the world. He's now based in Valencia, in Spain, and he travels and showcases his work. And I'm gonna just give a few examples of some of the awards. He was multiply Elle Decoration International Design Awards that he received several times. The Wallpaper Magazine have his in top 100 list of one of the most influential creators of the last decade. And of course, Time Magazine has also recognized him as visionary and one of the greatest creative talents we have. Let's welcome Jaime Hayon back to Fabrica. Thank you, Jaime, for being here.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me well? Yeah. Okay, great. So, Carlos, gracias por la presentación. Thank you so much for you guys to be here. I mean, this is so bizarre because I was remembering the first time I came here. It was back in 1997. I'm number 70. Shit, it looks like I'm 70 years old, you know. So, and I remember when I arrived to Fabrica, the first thing I freaked out was that it was so hard. It was like making the military or something like that. It was really complicated. And we have Mr. Toscani that was there, getting very pissed off. I think he would have stand a few times today with the conferences because he always was never patient. And he would always say the last word. But I remember there's something I learned from Fabrica, and it's the title of my conference today. It's actually, I think I built a third eye. You know, I built a third eye of looking at things in a different way. And I think that's what makes us, all of us, something special, you know. I remember the first time I arrived here, it was quite weird. I mean, I wasn't sure what design was about. I was thinking about what could I do with it. You know, would I do as they told me in the university. And I think we all had the same problem. They sort of told us something, but we were not sure if that was the way. But I remember coming here, I learned something really fast. There was not one way. There was a lot of ways, but especially it was nice to be mixed and to work together to create things. I was always fascinated about worlds I never understood, like El Bosco or the surrealism of Dali. I always looked at it going like, yeah, they're artists, but they're not artists. They're working with furniture, with elements, with three-dimensional work, with the B-dimensional work. They had a lot of things to say. And there was always something special about that. That is what I wanted to do with the art and design. This, as Nico was saying before, was a solution for me as well, because I was confused. I came from Madrid. That's where I was born. There was not a school of design. It was really complicated. Everyone was teaching things in the old way, like sort of Bauhaus way, which was very complicated to understand for me because I never saw design as a service. I always thought it was an opportunity to work and do whatever the fuck you wanted. Like, let's be real. I thought it was a platform to do whatever you wanted, to spread imagination, to work on things. So me, I always work with my sketchbooks. I work with things I liked. I draw. I sort of, travel, look at things. And I always thought the design could be something more than just a service, but, an excuse to sort of work on themes, work on matters, and experiment with it, and be able to say, whatever you wanted to say in that specific moment. For me, something that I remember Fabrica gave me when I arrived, and the time I spent here, I spent 7 years. And as Carlos was saying, I met him in Barcelona, and I thought he had incredible talent. And I said, okay, you have to come over with us. I met other people that you're here as well. I remember Nico. Nico, I met him. He didn't say it, but I say it. We used to go to skate park here in Treviso back then. And I went to a concert of Nico, and he was like completely nuts and full of blood because he was like jumping all over. And I said, this guy's great. He's totally crazy. And he's perfect because he looks at things differently. And I just had a talk for 5 minutes, and I understood he was special. It's all about that third eye. It's all about not having limits and opening how wide the profession that we do can be. And I think this is something that for me was always really relevant. I was always like kind of questioning, can I use my hands to make things? Would it be a piece of art? Would it be a design work? Would it be for a gallery? Would it be for a commercial work? These were questions that worried me at the beginning. Now they don't worry me anymore. And they don't worry me because I understood that creativity, it's something we live with. It's something that is part of us, that is part of our blood. I think if I cut myself like that, that's creativity, right? That's creativity. So today, every project that is brought to reality for me, no matter if it's a sculpture like here, for example, it's a 15-meter sculpture made in metal, 25 tons. Today, I remember, back then it was impossible for me to think that I could do a sculpture like this. Today, I can do a sculpture like this, and it's brought by enthusiasm. So many people ask me, how do you do that? And I said many times, it's like practicing enthusiasm. It's bringing up to this client a dream. And I think when we have that, and that creativity is spread, then people believe in it. You have just got to go for it, right? Like, that's the point. Something it's important for me to say is that I always travel to get creativity. I love museums. I love archaeology. I love history. I love everything that is around me. And something I learned here in this space was that also design and also who we are and art and everything we create, it also needs to be communicated. I also learned something that I want to get rid when I came here, that it was like there was a lot of weight. A lot of times in Fabrica, maybe because we came from Benetton and all that, we worked a lot in criticizing, in like bringing up this sort of dark side and sort of, explain that through images, through video, through whatever. I always thought, no, in my profession, I want to bring positive feelings. I want to work with kids. I want to work with, good feelings. I want to, yes, say something, but say it in my way in which I could bring a little bit of joy to this fucked up world, right? That we have a lot. So when I had the opportunity and the chance to work with museums, making installations, I work with kids. I made installations in which I tried to work with people I love, with companies I liked, with, for me, it was always about the relationship. And no matter if the project was more serious or else, there was always a theme but there was always this relationship, this idea of like loving people, embracing people, thinking about having a relationship. Like in the public, I'm seeing here some of my friends, and some of my friends which I work with for more than 20 years, and I consider them friends. You don't have to prove anything. When you don't have to prove anything is when it's great, because you just do whatever you think is right. This was a project in London. As you see, I'm not talking about so much about the projects. I really think the projects talk alone. But this was quite funny because I made an installation in Trafalgar Square, which is the main square in London. Once in a while, there's art performances and art projects happening there. I made a chess game. And it's funny that I made a chess game being a Spaniard, because Trafalgar Square is commemorating actually the loss of the Spanish army, to the English one. And of course, you're in London, so, why not making a chess game? Because the battle was anyway about strategy. It was also about, London, the bishop, the horses, everything is London to me. So at the end of the day, it's always mixing up what I like, which is a theme, the experience of working with your hands, working with the material, going into extreme crafts, and building up something strong, yeah? So this was an installation back in the day, long time ago. Things have changed a lot. And for me, I've always used the opportunity to make things that I never thought how they were going to end up. But I always thought that all the work is correlated. What do I mean with correlated? That I love to use and recycle things. I think that's the luck we have as creatives. You never throw anything. You always can recycle. I remember I made a Zara collaboration. So I made some sweaters and stuff with some drawings. And I had to make a sculpture, and I said, we need something. Well, let's take the sweater, let's put it on the sculpture. Whatever, all that is correlated. What I mean is that everything can happen. The same then, there's a painting behind. From the painting, I took off some of the products I designed, which is pretty bizarre, because to paint an object is not to design an object. But that's quite interesting, I think. It brings up the joy. Some projects that started, this is one of the first projects when I get out of Fabrica. It was funny, I was watching this guy dancing, and I said, why not making a shirt that could be in a sort of musical? That was my first design 25 years ago, first product I designed. But I always thought that design could be questioned. As Carlos was saying, when I started my profession, I said, why design has to be a service, why design has to follow the typical, rules and so on, why not being a little bit experimental? This was the second design I created back in the day. It was a cabinet called the multi-leg cabinet. Funny thing, I never designed it. It was the legs of everybody that sent me photos, and I just put them together. And you, as a client, you could choose however you wanted. People said it was eclectic. I said it's minimalistic, because I only designed the rectangle. The rest is you guys that send me your photos, right? So the point is, what is design? Why, this creativity has to be seen in one way? Why can we not challenge the things? I think what I've done in the last 25 years has been questioning what all this thing is about. And something I learned out of this is that it's an opportunity to fulfill your dreams, sort of, right? Saying, hey, I've got an opportunity in front. The only thing I know is like everyone's going to die at a certain moment. That's the only limit, right? If you think that's your only limit, then everything can be an opportunity, right? Like tonight, la fiesta de tonight. That's an opportunity, right? Because you don't know what's going to happen. Everything is an opportunity. The same opportunity you had when you came here, that you were lost. Being lost, it's perfect. Being lost is the thing that saves us, I guess. But it's also about observing. And this is why I started this conference saying, I build a third eye. I put I'm not an alien, because I also like the humor of that, But I think every one of us can build a third eye. And it's about practicing how to build it. It's to look at things and say, there's an opportunity for creativity. That's an opportunity for something. People hate toreros in my country, right? But I just did a lamp out of it. Looking at the hat, I said, why not? It could be interesting. There's a certain type of elegance. There's a certain type of, imagination that comes up when things are not written to be in one way or the other. I've done a lot of exhibitions. In the last years, I had a lot of retrospectives in different museums. Not only design museums, but also art museums, institutions in different parts of the world. I've built, a lot of things. I have 3 books in the market about my work. And today, the only thing I want is just to experiment. I think creativity is a constant progression in which we can experiment with everything that comes. Sometimes, the best thing is to be surprised about what you're doing. You're going like completely wrong, and suddenly, is that wrong? That's wrong? Okay. gallego. Oh, okay. Yeah, I was feeling something weird, like el pincho. Anyway, that's much better, right? Okay, great. See, you have to say it, right? When you don't hear it, please say it. But anyway, so what I said is that when I created, many times, there were steps into different things. There was people said, oh, you do furniture. Oh, you do interior projects. You do art projects. I said, no, I do whatever. Like, my idea is that you've got DNA, you've got a language, and that language, you use it as you wish. I remember one day I did this exhibition. It was all the products I did, only monochrome white. Why? Because I wanted to see the form, not anything else, not the distraction. It was quite interesting because it took me to understand that I was a maniac of detail, that I was a maniac of looking at little things and how materials can change and can build something interesting, putting together the pieces. So I worked on that a lot, and I worked on a lot of things. But this is a good sentence for me. The craft, the heritage, the idea of looking at that to get into the present, that's something I'm interested. Sometimes I go to the most kitsch thing. For instance, who likes these figurines? Nobody. But I use them to make new pieces, yeah? I use them to work into another context. I use materials that were lost, look at them and try to change them, try to use them, try to use these traditions, these people that work on these pieces, and work with them to go towards the 21st century and try to imagine that things could be different. I work with, for example, this example is funny. I was in Thailand, and there was a lady doing some knitting, and I was in a completely, I was retired with monks, so I was supposed to, do nothing. But I looked at this lady doing that, and I said, shit, she's going to help me to do something. And I did that jacket with her. And it was quite interesting because it's like the old craft, and then my idea just brought into her hands. Same thing, like meeting someone in the night and said, hey, let's do some photos in the day after and do something. So for me, everything's always really random. To use companies that can have 300 years old, like this one, Baccarat, which made all these things that could be almost, as I said, kitsch or to the extreme, and use that to invent a new language. There's something brilliant about using the craft that exists and using what it's there as an ingredient, yeah? And we all come from different countries, and we all have the opportunities in front of us. We look at these things, we look at people, at artisans, at incredible creatives, and also people that can build things with their hands. And I believe a lot about collaborating. I was always quite fascinated about traveling and said, hey, I meet this guy, he can do incredible shit, let's try something. And always in a way, almost like having a drink. For me, it has always been like that, Like you meet someone and it's like, oh, let's talk about it, let's get creative, let's think about what you can do, what I can do. And as collaboration should be, right? And not thinking that much about if there's a contract, if there's a thing. So all the creativity I've done with my studio, with my team, has always been into this idea of going extremely into the craft, but also into enjoying so much the fact of doing and building and creating. Is that wrong again? Okay. Oh, thank you. That's the way, yeah, thank you. So, as I said, these exhibitions and these moments have took me to reflect a lot. And actually, I think the work I've been doing through different media has always been an excuse, and I think the most important for that excuse is that I always could mix all these things and all these worlds from one to the other. What do I mean with that? That I think things are correlated. You create a vase and you work on color. That color can come into a space. That color can come into another solution, to a painting. It can go into an installation. It can be, something that formally could resolve another matter. And so many times I question things. For example, this is an anti-vase. What is an anti-vase? It's a vase that almost doesn't exist. It's like transparent. You see everything from the flower. It's a simple object, but it's like suddenly, okay, let's experiment what could be a vase that doesn't have a solid form, really, but it helps to create a composition with flowers. So a lot of times it's questioning also, what are we using the things for? What is a normal vase? Everything is to create a point of view, and everything is to build something. And I think all of you, in your ways, in your creativity, you try to build up a theme, you try to build up something behind what you make. I always said that the difference of what we gave to design in these generations, an actor like me was trying to give content, try to give stories, storytelling. So I would look at, now we're into sports. So sports, suddenly you can create pieces, that correlate to that. A podium, which is quite funny. Why not a cabinet? Could be, you could decide what is more important, like the things you like the most, the things your mother gave you, or the things you find in the market. You could choose 1, 2, 3, right? Like simple things could become quite interesting, or a trip to Rome, suddenly to create some pieces, right? So this I call it New Roman, It was quite interesting, this association, and how every design and every piece you make, no matter what, it has a theme behind, and that theme brings us to tell a story. It could be an architecture that inspired you to create objects, or it could be, something that is at the end explaining in a way, what you want to talk about. If you look at something like this, for me, this is not a sofa. It was like, I remember I felt like a maniac. This is for a company called Fritz Hansen in Denmark. And it was my first work I did with them 14 years ago. And it's one of the most important companies in the sector of design. And I remember what I wanted at the end is to create something very light, that it looks good from every side. And the idea of experimenting with the form was very important. I started a dialogue with the company with this image. I said, look at how beautiful the back, of this lady is, and how beautiful the back of this chair can be, because immediately you have this comfort. We're always talking about comfort, but comfort is visual as well. If you look at something, it looks comfortable. You want to sit on it. So there was this idea, or how I could not look at these, monkeys again. I remember this was going to Africa, and I saw these tables that were monkeys, and I thought they were pissed off, So I came back and said, let's make a monkey table. But he's sort of thinking about serving you or not. So there was this, this humor going on. Or how, for instance, I saw this image, and I said, why not tables that look like shuttles, like explorers. So all these things are always coming up from a theme that is behind, to be observed and to be seen. The same than this. This chair, I can never see it as a chair. I always saw it like a chair that is embracing you. I see these two penguins, they're exactly like this chair. At the end of the day, it's a chair that is embracing you. It's called a catch chair. It's trying to catch you, and I always see it as a person that is kind of following you, right? So this idea for me of experimenting with people, of making by doing, of trying to break the rule of I'm in the office and then I work on things. No, I like the idea of going to the place, meeting the artisans, working on the pieces, learning by doing, and having a great experience with them. And that's the point of all these years, thinking that every day is better than the other. That's the point. It's like, how do we take care that what we do is still interesting and it's still beautiful for us? Let's think about that, because a lot of times I just see people bored instead of tired of making things and saying, shit, I'm going to go for another year. Well, I think every year is a challenge to sort of rethink what you're doing, to rethink about where you want to go and what kind of messages you want to give. I remember I was super depressed during the COVID, and this is my solution. I made a coat hanger that reminded me to smile every day. I said, fuck it, let's put it there. And I gave it to all my friends, and they all liked it. They all liked this idea of I use your coat hanger, because every time I go out of the house, I'm like, yeah, it's fucked up day, it's raining, but I'm fine. So this kind of thought, it's my sort of thought. And also this responsibility that you obviously end up having after 25 years creating. You're thinking, shit, what have I done for the others? And a lot of times I think what I've done is look at crafts that were almost about to die and just use them and try to make something new, so the progress of their business went on. And that happened a lot. A lot of times the research and going somewhere with it. So basically, for me, all this work and all this creativity always end up with the idea of exploring and understanding what is coming up around. I always look for challenges. This is why I'm here as well. This is why I came here. This idea of challenging myself. So I did a lot of surreal shit. Like, for example, a carousel made of Swarovski pieces in the middle of the mountains in Austria as an installation of art. Built this a few years ago. You're surprised when you find it. It's out of the blue. Or how this tapestry, which is beautiful, is made of trash from the ocean, which we built into filaments and built up as a piece. So it's always this surprise. This is one of my favorite pieces, because in reality, this sculpture was called Fuck You, I Love You. But I could not call it like that because people were shocked about it. But it is, because it's doing a fuck you sign, but it's loving you, right? Because it's having the hearts on it. So this is in Korea, in Seoul. And it's a lot of, it's part of the work I'm doing in general. A lot of these sculptures are happening today, and in which I can bring up all the worlds I like. So my cosmos in between different disciplines, from art, design, installations, and spaces. A lot of times for me has been to travel. I travel everywhere. I learn a lot going everywhere. I think this is something I learned here as well. The idea of like meeting people from everywhere, how beautiful everything can be when you discover what the other countries are about. And for me, traveling around was always like quite interesting to sort of say, okay, I got the limit here, but what can I do next? Like working in Japan is very different than working ceramics, for example, in Spain. We don't do sake or like little ikebana things. So I think this exploration of going from one place to the other can lead you to go somewhere. This is funny because this is aluminum, right? And aluminum is high tech. But this is the typical lamps you find in Morocco. So I came back from Morocco saying, I'm going to use the high tech aluminum to work with the Moroccan style. It's quite interesting. This mixture, it's what it brings up the creativity. The idea of combining things that don't actually match together. So for me, actually, this is quite interesting. This is a lamp I did when I came back from China because the Chinese copy me a lot. So I said, fuck it, I'm going to copy them too. So I did this. So that was quite interesting. So once in a while, I do this kind of thing of like, whatever. But what I said is that all the work for me has always taken this idea of enjoyment and always trying to learn by doing and building up things that would surprise me above everything. After I did all this stuff, obviously space came over. So as Carlos was saying, I did hotels, I did installations in which I built things that were a little bit in my way. I think I remake the idea of what interior design should be because I don't do interior design as an interior designer. I just transform spaces and create whatever I want with the space and try to build up emotions inside a place. I think interior design, for me, is not interior design, but it's more like creating a movie in which you enter and you have the possibility to create spaces which will give you emotions. You go from one place to the other, you change, you see a door that is bizarre, you see like a chair that is weird. You have all these emotions happening when you're in the bed, when you're in the shower, so all that thing attracts me a lot. And I think it brings up this joy of saying, okay, now my inspiration is Mediterranean, tomorrow is high-tech, tomorrow is Korea. And I like that because this diversity and this idea of using the world that you have creates this sort of cosmos that at the end you can use in anything you want. And that's the point, to use this creativity anywhere. What you saw before was in the Mediterranean, and this is in Thailand. Here I use the Thai people, what they can do, rattan, different things. So every place gives you ingredients to cook something in a way or another. And this is something, as I said, traveling gives you that perspective and that idea of like bringing up the difference in the work, but always with your roots and with your DNA behind. In the past, I thought that this was going to be very boring. I remember when I got out of Fabrica, I was like, what the hell am I going to do? But then I found these guys, the two of them are here, Matteo and Massimo, which actually work with me. And it was, we've worked a lot together, but also we had a lot of fun going to places because we never had, as I said, we never had this sort of say, we never got bored. We always thought that traveling was fun to do things. It was always questioning stuff. And I think if you can have friends around, you can have people you love, at the end you end up doing good things, yeah? And also thinking about what you can give to people. This is a very big awarded park in Korea I did for kids. But I always thought, I have 2 kids, and I remember like the emotion of this place is like super crazy. Like if I was a kid, I would love to have a park like that. This is why I did it, which I'm a little bit of a kid anyway, But this was fun, the idea of like, why not making these figures that are so bizarre and using great materials and things. At the end, they're playing, but they're playing in a different angle. And that brings up a certain type of joy. This was a library for them too, for the kids, this height, only their height, right? So it's always this idea of using these opportunities to bring up joy, to bring up something, to bring up a surprise that will surprise you, but surprise everyone around you too, yeah? In the years, what I've looked at is that this profession has a lot of limitation. And me, I never wanted to be just a designer. I always wanted to transport myself to find my world. And today, I'm focusing on painting, most of all. I understood that painting, after the COVID, that it was the moment. I mean, I always painted, but even when I was in Fabric, I was painting all the time. But I never wanted to show this part of me. But I think that's the origin of everything I do, painting and sculpting and building up my own imagination into reality. And today I'm focusing on that. It's been around 7 years that I've been focusing on working with galleries and institutions towards the painting work, towards the guts of what I'm making. And I'm understanding myself more and more every day. It's like having therapy, right? You're doing flowers, but you're figuring out how you do the flowers, because it's how you move your brush, how you build up things, and how they metamorph suddenly. And I've had the opportunity to work with very good museums and show the work into different materials, but also exploring these, endless possibilities that you have. And I think that brings this beautiful part of this moment for me, which is that I really want to continue doing this. And I really want to continue to progress on these because I feel there's something very deep on it. And I think this is the luck we have as creatives. We can change. We can metamorph. We can mistake a million times, but we will always find a way in which we can transport our feelings. We can live what we're doing. And for me, the atelier today, it's the reality of what I like. Like I used to have a design studio and a painting practice. Now I have a design studio with a painting practice in it. It's all mixed together. If you come to Valencia, that's where I live. You can always visit. Not all together, please. It will be less warm, I think, than here. But it's a very nice place. And at the end, it's a very beautiful experience. So as I said, it's processing. What I like the most today is learning by doing, working with artisans, as I said, and working and challenging every material. When I learn something, I go, okay, let's go for the next thing. I don't know. This is my way of looking at things. It's a bit frustrating sometimes, but it's actually very rewarding because at the end, even though you become a sensei of something, you're going like, shit, if you're too good at something, you have to avoid it, actually. You have to start from zero. How do you start from zero? Go to another material you have no idea how to use, or a new technique you don't know how to, perform with. For me, that's the challenge. It's basically that one after the other, these challenges built up a career, built up an harmony on the work. And then I started to say things with these things because I said, no, it's not enough about the shape. It's also about what they say, about using the materials and bringing up a certain type of thinking about these three-dimensional pieces, which I call sculptures more than functional objects. For me, it's all about that, It's about sort of saying something, expressing something, but at the same time working on the high-end quality of these things, This sculpture is called Step by Step, and it's like sort of making fun of what's happening in life, right? This one's called The World. It's like desperate, strange animal which stands up. Someone that cannot stand the world anymore, so he takes out his head. Or like this one that is just freaking out looking at the at the down part. But it's always something interesting. And what happens is like when you make these things with a lot of fun and a lot of enjoyment, then you get commissions to do that. I did this park in Korea that has even my name on it. It's a botanical garden. You can go through and see things. Or I got the excuse now that in some of the projects I do with three-dimensional work, I can bring up some of the sculptures and some of the other projects. So for me, at the end, I only want to be Jaime, actually. A nice name, I tell you. At the beginning, I didn't like my name that much. First of all, in Italy, they call me Jaime. They ate a letter, right? In France, they love me because I'm Gem. So it's quite good, actually. So I always had a name that I was a little bit like, well, But now I like it, I only want to be myself. And at the end today, I just want to be myself, I remember this is the first photo I did when I got out of Fabrica. I just went into the green chicken and said, fuck it. I'm going to do my own world, and I'm going to do what I love. And, of course, I had no money whatsoever, as usual. Now it's doing better, but, it was a great way to start. And what I understood is that at the end of the day, if you really go crazy, if you really do what you love, if you really go for it, at the end you ended up building up something. Building up because it's insistent. It's like the bad song you end up singing. If you hear it all the time, if you're going for it, if you're nonstop thinking that this is what you want to do, at the end it's going to be relevant. And I think that's something you should think. And there's no age for that. That's the interesting part. Because at a certain moment you can go, okay, I had enough of this. Maybe I want to do something else. Oh, no, it's too late. No, it's never late. It's never late. This is the good part. Your brain's always functioning to have fun, have a good time. And for me, today I have to thank Fabrica, because it's beautiful to be back. It's beautiful to see you guys, see a lot of faces I love, and a lot of you that you're here. It brings a lot of emotions. It's kind of difficult to be here. I thought, the day when I arrived, I thought about, people that are not here anymore. And it was quite complicated. Years ago, there's some of my Japanese friends here. We lost a very good friend of us called Takuya, which was with us. And he died, unfortunately. I think I wanted to dedicate this to him because he would have been very, very happy to be here. But this was beautiful. And I remember him a lot. Today, when I was looking at the concrete and looking at the chair, I was remembering Takuya because the first work we did was like to make these benches for the Tadawando project. And it was a great discussion. It was a great moment. And well, unfortunately, he's not here, but it's good to also think about who's not here anymore and feel they're there looking at us. Nevertheless, to end up this, just follow me on the Instagram if you want to see more. And thank you so much. Thank you.